Okay, we're going to do a hack to a Sony S40. We're going to do a 3-wire with externals. S40 is a nice little camera, easy to fix, cheap camera, but with a really good lens on it, so it takes really good pictures. We'll get started on this. We're going to start it above the battery door. There's a screw there. We're going to remove it. Next screw is by the tripod holder. The next one's underneath the battery door. Okay, we want to start by removing the screws for the case. The first one's above the battery door. Next one's underneath the tripod holder, which this one here was already removed. The other one's underneath the card reader door. Okay, what we want to do then, get my fingernail underneath there and pry up. This one, and just pop open that case, pull it up, and take the back off. Now we need to get to the front. We need to get to the front of the camera, so we got to take the front of it off. So we need to remove the ribbon here. Now I'm going to do that again. I'm going to get right behind here, and I'm going to pull that out. You may have to pop it off there, and now our front cover's off. And that gives us access to the front of the camera. And this is where we're going to do our hack to it, the ribbon there. But first we're going to do externals. So I want to pop, just by these little levers hold these ribbons, just put your fingernail underneath them and pop them up. And once you pop them up, you can remove the ribbon. So back here, we want to start here then. We want to pull the focus mechanism ribbon out. Then we want to pull out our lens assembly. Now there's a little tab right down there. We want to wobble. Whoops. I can get it to release and pull out of there. And here's where we want to hack into. Okay, now I marked it, so negative, this is negative, that's positive. And what I'm using is a little bit of a resin paste I get at Radio Shack, because I'm going to use the solder off of my wire. So all I'm going to do then is lay my wire on there and lay my iron on top of it, and that'll solder my wire in. Try and get this position so you can see. I'm just going to lay that wire right on top, and it'll puddle quick. That's all it takes. Same with our negative. I'm just going to lay that right on there. There we go. And that's all it takes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the card reader out, or just so I can get the wire underneath. So there's a tab there, there's a tab here. And I can pop that card reader off. And I don't want to take it all the way off. I just want to pull it out of the way, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut right to, there's a little hole right there. I'm just going to cut right to it with a pair of cutters. And I'm going to take my wires out of there. And what I'm going to do then is slip the first wire underneath the ribbon for the LCD. So I'm going to pull that down. I want to slip that wire down that slot. Do that same thing for the negative. Once that's there, I can put my card reader back in. And I can put my lens assembly back in. I want it to fit right down in there. I'm going to put my focus ribbon in first. There we go. I didn't think it was all the way down. Make sure the ribbon's down and close the door. Close the door. And there are my externals done. Okay, now I'm going to do my hack. And I'm going to go from the top here down. And what I want is to scrape. Now I don't want to scrape a lot off here because you scrape too far back, it'll cause a lot of problems. So I only want enough that I can solder a wire to. So it's 1, 2. And I don't want to uncover any other terminal. Because if these terminals, if I solder solder on and I catch another terminal, it's not going to work. You're either going to have an error. This in here is the shutter, and if it grounds out against any of these other two terminals, it's not going to work. And I'm just using a precision screwdriver. And I may even sharpen it with a file. So that's my first one. Now my power is my bottom one. And like I said, don't want to go all the way in deep, but maybe a 1/16. Go in there and uncover that wire under that little terminal underneath that block. Now what I'm going to do then, I'm going to go back to that rosin paste I got from Radio Shack, or anywhere, it doesn't matter what brand it is. And I'm going to put a little bit on that terminal, and a little bit on, that's on my shutter terminal, and a little bit, not a lot, too much can cause problems. Just enough to coat it, just a little bit. And that's my scrape method. Now what I do is I put a little bit of tape, a little piece of electrical tape right underneath that white connector, and that's the case I mess up. A piece of solder falls off, so that's all I do there, and I don't want to ruin my terminals. Okay, now to solder them on, I'm just going to lay my wire right in that little channel I just scraped. And I'm going to lay my iron right on top of it. And I'm just going to melt. As soon as I see it melt, I'll get my iron off of there. And you got to hold it for a couple seconds so you don't move it before it solidifies. And do the same thing for my power once I get in position. I'm going to solder my power on. I'll give them a little bit of tug. Make sure they're hold. And that's my hack there. After I got them on, I'll take a piece of electrical tape. Lay down on top so I don't pull it. Now we'll work on the front cover. Now what I'm going to do with this one, because sometimes we have a white screen problem with an S40, and there's two little tabs right here, and I'm actually going to cut those tabs out of there. This is to help prevent white screen from happening. These little tabs push up on that ribbon and it'll cause a white screen situation. And I'll just cut them out of there. Now, what I want to do, I'm going to open up my lens cover. So I'm just going to take a little screwdriver and I'm just going to run that baby open. And what I want to do is get a screwdriver, a little small screwdriver like this, and get underneath that ribbon there on the motor. And all I'm going to do is desolder that or heat it and pop that ribbon up. Get it under there, heat it, pop, pop, pop. There we go. And what I'm going to do now, and that way my lens cover don't close. So what I'm going to do now, let's cut a little piece of tape, or I'm going to tape that ribbon where I just desoldered from and tape that up. Now I'm ready to put this thing to get back together. So I'm going to slide this in. I'll always pull back that ribbon with my finger, and I'll set the camera in and pop it together. And I'll make sure no wires being pinched. Oops, and this ribbon here got underneath on me. Pop it down. Now I got to remember to replace this ribbon here. If you forget to do it, you'll get a power on, power off situation. Put that in. Okay, now I want to take the back cover and I want to take the tripod holder out. So there's a screw right here. Remove that screw. I'll just keep it in jar because I'm not going to use it again. And I'll pop it out with a screwdriver. And there are tripod holders removed. So we're out. Okay, now I have a choice. I could use the battery common for my external power source and my control board common. I might splice in here and run two wires, or splice in the battery holder and back, do a wire back to the board. Or I can solder a piece of wire to the USB hood. Now I'm going to show that this way, but a lot of times I won't even do this. I'll just use the battery common for both on this build. So I'm going to tin my wire, and I want to come over to the USB port, which is right there. I'm going to solder that wire on. Now right here's the speaker. There's a little web bearer. I'll cut that off because that's where I want to run my wire through at. And you don't want to use a heavy gauge wire. I'm using a pretty small wire because I want the camera to go back together, but I want it to be able to use this button, and that turns my LCD on and off. So I don't want to interfere with that button. So now I'm ready to route my wires through my where my tripod holder was. Four wires. So what I want to be careful here is not to pinch any wires, and I'll use another little piece of tape again to hold my ground wire where I want it. Because as you can see, it moved on me already. So I'll put it there, right where I want it. I'm going to put a piece of tape across here so it stays out of my way and it stays where it's supposed to. So all I want to do is pull these wires now. I got to be careful right here. I don't want to pinch any wires, so I usually slide them right like that. There's a little rubber thing back here. You want to push down on it and it'll go right back together. Now, one of the things I didn't mention that we should do, and I didn't show here, was we need to take your little switch here before we put together, and I didn't do that because I knew it was a line. Slide it all the way to the left and slide that one all the way to the left. And if you do that, it'll go together and this switch will work. If you don't do that, and if this is over and the switch is the other way and you go do that, you'll break the little switch in half. You'll break the little lever off the switch. So I'm ready now to put my screws back in. There's one above the battery door. One where the tripod holder was. Now I don't want to tighten this real tight. I'll just snug it. As we took the tripod holder out of there, and it's a spacer, so if I tighten it too hard, I'll crack it. And one in the memory stick slot, and we want to tighten it up. Okay, that's our hack. Okay, we're going to test our hack now. So we'll use our common, which I had as black, and our red, which was my power on. Hit it, and the camera should come on, and it does. Then my white wires, my shutters, I'm going to touch that with common. All I do is touch it, and I take a picture. So I know my hack is good. And I can power it down. And sometimes you like to make sure and power it up with the buttons, make sure they work. Everything works. And there's one more step that I like to do as for precaution, for to make sure things are right, and that's to check my polarity of my external. So I have batteries in there, two NIM batteries in my camera, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a meter and I'm going to measure my voltage. And I'm not really so much concerned about my voltage, which I will check, but I want to make sure my polarity is correct. So I have a meter here, and I'm hooked positive to positive, negative to negative, and I got 2.5 volts, which 1.2 times 1 is about 2.4, so I'm good. Now on my meter, my voltage is show it there. On my meter, my voltage is positive. That means I'm good. Now if I reverse these and I put my positive terminal on my negative on my positive, as you'll see, I come up with a negative number. And if I was using a meter, the meter would go this way. I always want my meter, if I was using a needle meter, I want the needle to go forward, not backwards. And that's the same with this. So I know when I hook up my negative to negative, positive on my meter. I have a positive voltage, 2.5 volts, which I know I'm good. This concludes the hack. I hope this helps you. It's a fairly simple hack, but that's easy. It's not too difficult. Camera works great. It's a nice little camera. I hope this helps.